Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back again. This is Ray Walters. Our guest today has crafted a delightful and meaningful story that invites young readers into a whimsical forest where one small creature goes on a big journey, not just through the woods, but towards self-discovery and acceptance. Rooted in gentle humor, empathy, and important life lessons, the story speaks to children and adults alike. The author's own journey, growing up in a challenging environment, drawing early inspiration from his mother's stories, and later continuing his love for writing through ministry and grandfatherhood, has shaped the heart behind this book. With a genuine desire to encourage young minds to embrace who they are and extend kindness to others, he brings us There's a Girebra in the Forest. Please welcome its author, Mike Stonecypher. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Ray. It's good to see you.
The pleasure is all mine, Mike. And thank you, by the way, for saying yes to doing this interview.
Oh, I
And
was thrilled when you asked me to have this interview. I was just so excited because I'm so excited about my book.
yes, and who wouldn't be? I mean, it's a children's book, teaches a lot of good lessons in it, and we cannot wait to feature you on the show. But Mike, first off, I just want to go ahead and congratulate you for getting this book out. How has it been so far?
Well, thank you, Ray. It was a challenge in a sense, but I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's important to know that it's not as easy as it looks.
Mm-hmm. I know, I know. Readers like myself, we often forget that there's a behind the scenes that happens. There's a backstory in every book that comes out. I mean, readers are very much excited picking up a book, opening up its covers, going through its pages, and reading without even looking into the backstory, like how it was written, what was the inspiration. So today, I hope we will be able to talk about that and invite our viewers and listeners also to get a copy of your book.
Oh yeah, yeah. We want to, present it as best we can because it was really important to me to leave a legacy for my
True.
grandchildren.
True. And that's very noble. Mike, I want to go ahead and jump right in. I want to go ahead and first look into the book's emotional and creative origins. So, my first question for you is I want to start with the heart of it. What inspired you to write a story like There's a Girebra uh, in the forest? Did I pronounce it right? Girebra, right?
Girebra or Girebra.
Girebra. Yeah. So what inspired you to write this? Was there a particular moment or theme that sparked the idea?
Well, there wasn't any particular moment. I love as a child growing up in my adolescent years, I always thought I would like to write a book about something. And
Mm,
I was interested in writing a story about my mother's life because she sat many times in our home and told stories of her experiences as a foster child in the Great Depression and
mm,
the things that they lived through and things that happened in her later life. But it always thrilled me to hear those stories. And I think it's important that a parent will sit down and spend that quality time with a story with a child. There's nothing more precious than that moment that you're, sharing such a wonderful gift from an author to enjoy something together, such as a book. And I found the Gerebra
mm,
and in the Disney World Animal Kingdom Park because we love to go there, and they have a safari ride. And after the safari ride, there's
Mhm.
a like a menagerie or a zoo that you can go through and see African animals. And one of the first exhibits is an okapi,
Mm.
and it looks so interesting. And there was a person from Disney that was there to explain all about the animal, and it was fascinating, and I just loved it. And then when I got older and I decided that I retired and was able to have some free time, I thought, well, I'm going to write my book. And I thought I might write a novel, but I thought, that's just a little bit intimidating. I know I'll write a children's book. And I thought, well, what can I write about? And I remember my struggle as a child and as an adolescent with my own identity.
Mm.
And I had a very difficult time. It was very, very uh, upheavaling at
Mm.
times. So um, I knew that there are some children that would have the struggle that I had with identity and influences of society. And I wanted them to be brave. And I think that's part of the story is that the little creature's brave.
Mm.
So that's what inspired me to write the book.
That sounds really, really great, Mike. Here's another question I want to throw in, and I wanted to focus on the character, but I wanted to be a little bit careful because I don't want to reveal the plot. It's for our viewers and listeners to find out, actually. But Obi here, such a gentle and memorable character. How did you go about creating him? Was he based on a real person experience or perhaps an emotion you wanted to explore?
It was more of the vulnerability of an individual at that time of life. He's a
Mhm.
young Okapi and very malleable and pliable and influenced by his peers. And I feel like everybody has that moment or that time in their life that they have those fears that they're not going to, be accepted.
Mm.
And then he's faced with the confronted that he wasn't being really accepted as, you know, he wanted to be. And so I think that that helped create his character as far as he being such a tender little guy.
Mm.
I kind of feel like that's the way I felt as a child growing up and trying to, make my way through life and through school. School is quite an experience for somebody sometimes. We moved a lot. We
Mm.
moved every year, almost every year, sometimes twice a year. I was always the new kid in school. I was always trying to work my way into the society
Mm.
and create friends. And, it's hard. It's really hard. So, kind of from that experience is where I got the idea of Obi.
Mm. That's very interesting. Mike, children's books often we'll get back to OB in the next question after this, but I'm curious, Mike. Children's books they often carry hidden layers of meaning. What were you hoping readers and even grown-ups might take away from OB's first few encounters in the forest?
Well, it's the idea that we all have those times when people seem to be important to us and you look up to them and when he has those uh, interactions with those that bullied him. He seems to he seems to take it at heart, and I think that all of us should realize that that kind of action, that bullying, is very hurtful, and it hurts deeper than we can realize. Sometimes it scars a person
Yeah.
for a long time, and
Yes.
it may take years for them to overcome that. And
Yeah.
I think that the general public should know that. And I think adults should know that even though they put their kid on a school bus and they are happy and they're waving them goodbye and they come home and they, go do their homework, that
Mm,
they have to face a lot of challenges in school with the social things. And it's important to know that they need help. They need constant supervision and
yeah.
not overstepping the bound, but a watchful eye is important to the parents, and the children should know that it's not always as bad as it seems because if Susie doesn't talk to you at lunch, it's the end of your world that day. But the next day, you forget all about it, and Susie and you are talking. So that's kind of how their life is. It's a roller coaster of emotions in those years, those formative years that we go through in school.
Yeah. Very encouraging, very insightful. Mike, the creatures that OB, meets are quite distinct. So, can you tell us how did you select which animals would play key roles in his journey?
Well, when I really decided to write about an okapi, I researched where the okapi lives in
Mm,
Africa, and I
mm,
researched the animals that would interact with him.
right, right.
And again, I've seen a hornbill, and
Mm,
I knew what a hornbill like, and I think it's fascinating. There are several species of hornbills throughout Africa and Asia of all kinds of colors and horns and bills, and it's just interesting to see that. And I wanted the public to know a little bit about it. We here in the United States might only think of a chicken, and we don't realize that a chicken is actually from the jungle
yeah,
fowl of Southeast Asia, and that's
yes.
where they kind of originated from, and we've kind of domesticated them and everything. And so it's this world we live in is so full of wonder. That's the most important part that I love about animals. And the weaver bird, oh my goodness, their
Mhm.
their their nests are amazing. They're constructed upside down, and they weave those nests so intricately that they
Mm,
can hold their young in there and protect themselves from predators. It's just amazing, those birds. And then of course the giraffe and uh, I saw a program once on PBS about
yeah,
this zoo in New York City where they had this pet or this porcupine, and
okay.
I never thought of it being a gentle, nice it's almost like a little dog. It has such a
Right.
personality, and it got so familiar because my opinion of it when I first saw it was, oh my goodness, I don't want to get stuck with that thing. Those needles look sharp and long.
Yeah, the quills are
But
very sharp.
education, I guess, was part of it because some of these animals, especially the okapi, is an endangered species.
Mm,
There's soon not going to be any on our earth if we don't do something about it. And I know I don't want to get on the soapbox about preservation and all that, but it is important to keep in mind these things. I know our progress and our industry needs some things, but we need to also realize this world is so beautiful
True.
that we don't want to ruin it. We want to
True.
keep it for our grandchildren. There again, I want my grandchildren to see, and I want them to experience that thrill that I had when I saw that fascinating old copy. Oh my goodness, it just was magnificent, and I just was so happy to learn about it. And I think that education is so important. It should be something that you enjoy, and a lot of people don't enjoy education, but we can learn, and it can be fun.
True. And I totally agree. I mean, it's the first time I heard of OB being an animal, and it made me do a research actually. So it brings a different layer on the storytelling itself, because not only are we looking at an animal that we may not be familiar with, but it also gives us the awareness that such an animal exists, and where this animal is in the spectrum of, is it um widespread, endangered, critically endangered. So it actually gives us that's a very good way of also educating your readers. Um,
Yes.
Mike, I want to go ahead and look into the depth of this book that you have written. You've mentioned this already, about the challenge of not knowing one's identity. So the question is, because your book actually addresses the challenge of not knowing one's identity. That's it. So why was that theme important for you to explore in a children's story? I know you've already mentioned this in passing earlier, but let's go revisit this at this point and talk about this some more.
Okay, well, um, everybody has a personality, and that basically comes in forms as a young adolescent and a child. You form your identity by your personality growing and nurturing it. And I think that nurturing is a start,
Mm,
but you have to accept yourself. That was the important part that I learned in my life. I had to accept who I was. And it's hard to find that person because there are so many roles that a person has to play.
right.
They have to be a son, for
Yeah.
instance. I was a son, I was a grandson. So I had a certain role as a grandchild. You know, I had a strange situation since my family was not a traditional family. I was raised in a home by my stepfather and mother
Hmm.
and stepbrothers and sisters. So I had to deal with some of that. And there was, even though it's not on the surface, there's always an underlining feeling that I had that I don't fit in because
Mm,
I was the only child of my father and mother's union,
yeah.
and the other children, they never treated me any way but as their brother. But I knew. I mean, I didn't realize that until I was in the third grade,
Right.
but and it was a real shock.
Mm, mm.
Had a big argument with my school teacher because of it. But yeah, they accept me and they treat me fine. But I never wanted to ever give the impression that I felt misused by my siblings, my half brothers and sisters, and that. But there were some differences between the way I was treated by my stepfather and his children, and it could not be obvious. It wasn't blatant, but there were some underlining feelings. And when I found out who I really was, I didn't come to knowledge of who I was till I was in my teens,
Okay.
and I started realizing what I felt, even though I was raised different from my feelings and my lifestyle that I wanted. Uh, it was totally against everything. It was a 180-degree turn in
Mm,
my life, and I didn't accept it. And I played a part, and I played the part of a husband and a part of a minister,
mm,
and a part that I had to play.
mm,
And of course, it was sincere at the time, at the moment, but I knew back in the back of my mind that it wasn't true. And that's a horrible place to be in your life, because it really gives you uh, a place that's dark in the back of your mind that pops up, and you don't know what to do about it. So that's basically where it came from. The feeling that their identity was important and self-acceptance was more important than anything. That and nurturing and self-acceptance all work hand in hand. If you realize you're me being a parent, even my child, my daughter, uh, there was certain things I wanted her to like,
mm,
cause uh, but she didn't like it. She didn't
mm.
want to be the ballerina. She didn't want to be, but forcing a child to be something they're not is not the way to go. Let them find themselves and then nurture it. And
Right.
I feel like that's paramount in our day that we live in today, because there's so much confusion, so
Mm.
many drums beating around us, that you have to listen to your heart.
At what point in the story do you feel that Obi took his first real step toward courage or self-understanding? Was that turning point always clear to you while writing it?
No, actually, the book was written twice. I mean,
Mm,
it was a first part and a second part.
okay.
I wrote the book, and then I sat back and I realized that it wasn't finished. And so then I added the part where he decides that he is going to do something about who he was, that he was going to make his mark in the world. We all have to do that. We all have to decide, this is who I am. This is the way I want to live. And I'm going to be true to myself. And I think Shakespeare wrote, "To thine own self be true." And I think that's so important. And that's kind of what woke me up one day
Mm,
when I was in my roles as a person who I was and all that. When I came to the realization I had to be true to myself.
mm.
I had to be honest with myself. And I think if we really are honest with ourselves, we can come to a lot of revelations about ourselves.
Indeed. I also noticed, Mike, that there's a lot of heart in the interactions between Obi and the other animals in the story. Now, how did you balance dialogue to, because it's for me, there has to be balance. So how did you balance dialogue to keep it warm and playful yet meaningful?
That became actually automatic to me.
Mm,
It seemed like it just spoke to me. It flowed from me. It was almost like the book wrote itself sometimes.
mm,
The character had had personality and heart
mm,
because the individuals that I met in my life, even though they may not be real kind to you, they have a personality and a heart, and you can reach them if you know how to treat people the way you want to be treated. It's that old philosophy, to do unto others
right.
as you would have them to do unto you. And even though you don't understand them, if you can educate yourself, then they learn who you are and know that it's not totally wrong. Then they can accept you and they can um, be educated to what you really are. And that's what his bullies soon learned, was what he really was. They had not experienced or seen a no copy. So they, they learned through his teaching them, and that's what gave him the courage to do that.
Fascinating. Without giving away too much, Obi eventually learns something important about who he is. Why was it vital to pair that revelation with a mission to share it with others?
Again, that's the desire to educate.
Yeah.
And if we don't have education, we're just going to be back in the caves of the cavemen.
Mhm.
We learn, we build upon those things, the foundation of our education, and then we learn on our own. We should have a desire uh, to understand our world. There's so much that we don't know, and then there's so much of our brain that we don't use. And that's another fascinating fact, because you learn how that we only use a small part of our brain. There's so much more potential there for us to, create a greater society and a greater social culture that could possibly, conquer all our diseases, all our financial, economic problems
Mm.
can be all, done through the power of education and the power of thought. And I think that if a book doesn't cause you to think, it's actually a waste of time. It really is. I think if you can't gather a thought from that and say, I never looked at it that way, or I never thought of that. Even when I watch a movie, uh, I think, and I had an experience like this. What if I was in that person's place and
Mm.
had that experience? Would I act the way they did, or would I act another way? How would I treat a person that was doing that to me, or how would I, react to that kind of pressure? And I think it's always a learning experience when you uh, experience or learn how someone else thinks. And it's important to know that, because you can take for granted that everybody thinks the way you do. And I think as a young child, you do. You think all your little buddies and all your friends that's on the playground, they all think the way you do. And
Yeah.
then when you get older and you start talking and conversing, and that's another form of storytelling, uh, that you are learning what they think and how they feel. And I think that's a great importance of the differences between us and animals is that we really have that ability. And I don't know, we might even find out that animals have that ability because I've seen so many amazing things. I recently got a dog, and
Mm,
she has shown she has shown me some of the things that she can learn and react to. It's amazing, and I, I'm so glad that I had that opportunity to enjoy our experiences together. But I think that's what I'm gathering from that.
Mike, let's talk about values that you've introduced in your book. I noticed forgiveness and empathy play quiet but powerful roles in the story. How did those ideas weave themselves into the narrative as you wrote it?
Yeah, well, the gift of forgiveness is so precious because we have to realize that we all make mistakes.
Hmm.
You can't function in this life and go through life without making a few mistakes. Some of us a little more than others,
Yeah.
some of us more serious than others. And maybe I made a mistake by not revealing my true self earlier in life, but maybe I learned through that some great things, received some precious gifts of people that I was introduced to because they did not realize who I was and they accepted me and they were great people, but I don't know whether they would have accepted my lifestyle if they really knew. But after I declared who I was, there were quite a few people that still have not forgiven me
Hmm.
for deceiving them. And I think forgiveness is precious because even Jesus in the Bible said, if you can't forgive others, then how can you forgive yourself? And when you realize that, yes, somebody misspoke something about you or somebody misused you or whatever, you realize that as we walk through life and clumsily walk around and make our mistakes, we hurt people too. And we don't want them to not know that we love them, even though we may have made a mistake and hurt them. Uh, but if you can forgive yourself for making that mistake, then it's easy to forgive someone who has made the same kind of mistake to you. And I think that, the scriptures say, if you can't take the mote out of the eye of a person, you have to first take the beam out of your own.
Yeah.
And that's important to know that we can't see other individuals while we have something in our hearts against them. Forgiveness is the most important part of learning and understanding where this person's living. And we don't always live other people's lives. And it's far harder to find out that you can't because we want everybody to do what we want them to do and control them. And it's not going to be a place that we can be in. And I don't want to be in that place. I don't want to
Yeah.
be the grand puppet master because I can't control and know the future and know what this person's going to have to go through. And they need to prepare themselves within themselves to accept everything that people do to them as well. There
Hmm.
go you and I, except for God's grace. We we all learn that we are the same person, actually. We are the same inside and feel the same feelings and think thoughts, say have the same doubts, maybe not at the same time, but it's all within us. We are all human. And then when we realize that, then it's easier to forgive somebody and understand that it's more important to show them who you are and that you care for them.
Right. I think it boils down to understanding, if we interact with people, we and I'm speaking for myself, we always have this sort of like personal biases. And what I fail to understand is that we do things because there's a reason behind it. There are things I ought not to tell everyone, and because I have my reasons too. And
Right,
it's not about trying to fool people by not telling them. Maybe you have a secret, you have a past that you want to run away from, but people will judge you just because you didn't say it, you didn't tell.
right,
Right.
right,
But what we fail to also understand is that we have reasons why we're not telling them. It's not always bad. Like, just because I want to fool you, I don't want to tell you.
right.
Right. So I think that's that. We lack understanding. Whenever we interact with people, we always judge. And I'm speaking for myself because it does happen. And the good thing about that is when I'm aware, I'm able to self-correct and to make sure that I learn from that mistake that I committed. So thank you so
Well,
much, Mike, for sharing.
part of that is survival.
Right.
We have to instantly judge, is this person going to hurt me? Is this animal going to hurt me? In the great scheme of life, when we were, around as unorganized cultures, we had to instantly know, is this an enemy? Is this a foe? Is this somebody going to hurt me? In fact, that's why we shake hands,
Right.
because we shake hands to show we don't have a weapon. And that was a survival instinct. And
Fight
we
or
have
flight.
that. And there's nothing we can get away from it, but we can control it. And we can
True.
say, hey, this person looks a little shady. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like what he's wearing. Well, maybe that's all he has. You don't know the full story. They
True.
may have had someone that was generous and gave them the objects they were wearing that were displeasing to you, but that was all they had.
Right.
And that in itself is a surprise, that you can't think back that far in a person having the possibility of not having anything more.
Very
And
true.
so, yeah, I think it's a survival instinct.
I agree. Thank you, Mike. Um, the book closes with a gentle reminder about growth and caution, but also hints at future adventures. So, was this deliberate? Might we see more of Obi in the future?
Well, when the last half just flowed out of me like it was writing itself, and I thought, there are a lot of more animals that are on the brink of extinction, and unusual, lovely animals. It's very possible there will be another book about Obi and his adventures. Very possible.
Okay. Mike, you've written stories drawn from both imagination and personal life. What did writing There's a Girebra in the Forest teach you, either as a writer or as a grandfather?
Well, it emphasized to me the importance of storytelling,
Mm,
and it also showed me that it takes a village to
great stuff.
produce a book. There
Oh.
were so many moving parts when I had this book published, and it was amazing to me. It took a lot longer to produce the book than it did to write it. And, that was amazing to me. And I also learned that, you got to have something special if you want people to remember you by and enjoy reading your book. You got to have them want to read something that gives them some feeling. And I
Mm,
felt like Obi, particularly, can give you a real good feeling. And his experiences can relate to any individual. And learning about the great African continent and its animals is important to me. As a child, I always thought I would go on a safari and see the jungles and the animals and such. But so it was a kind of a dream. And so when your dreams come to hand and you can experience it at Disney World's Animal Kingdom park or on a book in the pages, it kind of gives you that comfort to know that this world is bigger than us. And I think the universe is bigger than this world. And if we can realize and learn that, we don't feel like we're so egotistical that we're so important to this universe. And I learned that through the ages of, as a young man, I was more like everybody else. I didn't have a little bit of this saged experience,
mm,
but yeah, I can relate to those people that don't know exactly where I'm coming from.
mm,
And I wanted to put a little bit of that on a page. And again, we always want to leave something for our grandchildren. And I hope when they pick up my book and see the dedication to them, that they will realize that they're in my heart.
right. That's very good to hear. Mike, before I ask my closing question, and speaking of picking up a copy of your book, where can they get a copy of it? Where can they grab one?
Well, Barnes and Noble carries it. In fact, I'm having a book signing next Sunday at the Barnes
Oh,
and Noble in my city, and from 12 to 2. And I've met, this is my second one, and I've
mm,
met so many wonderful readers. It was a thrill. But you can get it at
mm-hmm.
exlibris.com, and you can order it from them, or you can get it on Amazon. And so Barnes and Noble and Amazon are, you can either get the ebook or the softback or the hardback. I recommend the hardback. It is such a beautiful cover, such a beautiful book. They did such a good job. And it even has a picture of me on the back.
Mike, to close, I would want to go ahead and talk to you some more, but we obviously, if there's a beginning, there's always an end. So to close this interview, Mike, I want to go ahead and ask you this question. What would you say to a reader, young or old, who sometimes feels like they don't quite fit in or aren't sure where they belong?
If they be patient with themselves and the public, be patient with others, and that's not a easy task, you know, because you have to go through some things to learn patience.
Right.
But if you can be patient with them, they will soon come to knowledge. Knowledge will soon come if they really have a desire. And most people are good people and they desire to learn and treat people good. And that's something important to remember. They always look for the good side of people and show the best side of you. Be the best of who you are. And that's kind of what Obi decided. He's going to be the best Okapi that he could be.
Mike, such a pleasure talking to you this episode. Thank you for your time.
Well, it was a thrill. I'm so happy to have this opportunity. And I hope that everybody enjoys my book as much as I enjoyed writing it.
I hope they do. And guys, you know where to pick up a copy of Mike's book. You can also see it below at the description box where you can make orders of the copy. Again, Mike, thank you so much for your time. I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self publishing, one indie author at a time.